Do we now have a serious title race in the Premier League? Well, after Liverpool's defeat yesterday at Chelsea, it certainly feels like we could have a different name on the title coming in the season. And it certainly looks like we're going to have a far better title race than what we had last season. So let me know what you think of the Premier League title race in the comments below. And let's talk about whether or not we could see the most exciting title race in recent years. So the first place to start really has to be Liverpool. They are on a bad run of form, certainly for them. Their start of the season has felt a little bit underwhelming. It was a struggle to begin with. They struggled on the opening day against Bournemouth. They struggled away at Newcastle at 10 men. They struggled against Burnley. And then we saw them lose, of course, against Crystal Palace 2-1, which was a bit of a late goal there. Then we see them lose in midweek in the Champions League. And then we see another late goal cost them in London as they lost against Chelsea 2-1. And look, the eye test in what you are seeing as a neutral fan, and certainly what I am seeing when I watch Liverpool, is a team that does not look like it is clicking properly at the moment. They obviously have tons of quality, which helps them win games when they aren't at their best, and maybe that's a sign of champions, but a sign of champions is not conceding late goals in games to lose, and Liverpool, of course, have done that over the last couple of Premier League games. And we have seen Liverpool, of course, win games late on, so they do have the mentality, I suppose, in a way of a title-winning team. But it certainly feels like at the moment this Liverpool team is sort of grasping for air. Defensively, they look a little bit all over the place. It feels very much like Canate is having a really off year. The sign of Kirkes, I don't think has really worked so far. We've seen Frimpong get injured at right back, and we've seen Conor Bradley fill in there, and it feels like that is a downgrade from Trent Alexander-Arnold at the moment. So overall, this Liverpool team just feels like, certainly defensively, it is struggling right now. And I think if you look at when they beat Arsenal on match day 3, I think, in the Premier League, it felt very much like the questions were there for Arsenal, and we saw a lot of criticism of Arsenal and the fact that, maybe they weren't attacking enough, but it feels like they've answered those questions in the last few weeks, whereas Liverpool won that game due to a moment of brilliance from Dominic Szoboszlai, but they weren't great in that game, and it feels like we sort of saw some papering over the cracks. That Newcastle game away was massive alarm bells there for fans, because it felt like Liverpool were undeserving of that victory, and Newcastle had 10 men for pretty much, I think, the second half. I think Anthony Gordon got sent off towards the end of the first half. So Liverpool, they nearly threw away points there. Against Burnley, they really struggled to create chances. So it felt very much like heading into, the last few games that Liverpool had maybe got away with one. And if they could find their form, then they've ridden out, a bit of bad form to start the season, but have picked up results, and then they can maybe head into the next international break with a bit of momentum behind them. But quite the opposite has happened. And their summer signings I struggle to bed in. We talked about the defensive ones, but it really feels like Florian Wirtz is struggling right now. Isak has not hit the ground running, though he did get an assist, I suppose, yesterday. Ekitike has done well since he's come in. I think he's probably been their best bit of summer business. But it's the defence. Liverpool looks shaky at the back, and that's not something you would necessarily see with them. As for Arsenal, who I think you would probably look at as the team behind Liverpool as being the favourites to win the league title, and Arsenal didn't really get off to the best start of the season, in my opinion. I thought they were a little bit underwhelming to begin with. Certainly that result at Anfield, where it felt like Liverpool were there for the take and they didn't really have a go at them. And it felt like, they had a chance to win that one. It felt similar against Man City at home, where they drew, and maybe if they'd really pushed, they could have won that game. But they have bounced back from that. They've drawn one, they've lost one, and they've won 5. And the result against West Ham yesterday felt like a pretty, significant one. It was comfortable for them, and they felt like they really, didn't really have any concerns with West Ham, especially with Nuno coming in, and West Ham would have been a tricky team to face. But I think that win at Newcastle last weekend really showed what Arsenal are as a team, and the fact they were 1-0 down until pretty late on. Newcastle's not a ground that they have enjoyed success with in the recent past, but they were able to score late goals. They got, obviously, a winner right at the end, and they showed, on that day, their title-winning credentials, in my opinion. It showed that this team has heart, has character. And we talk about the defences. That Liverpool defence compared to the Arsenal defence is chalk and cheese. Gabriel and Saliba are just a world-class pairing of centre-backs. Mascara's come in and he looks like a strong player. And that overall, that Arsenal defence it just looks watertight a lot of the time, and they don't look like they're going to concede tons of goals. Look, going forward, there could be question marks there, but now they've got Bukayo Saka back, it does feel like they've got a little bit of a spark in there. Gyökeres, he's only going to get better as he plays more games. So it looks bright for Arsenal right now, and especially after we came away from that Liverpool defeat and that Man City draw, it maybe felt like there was issues at Arsenal, and maybe, this wasn't going to be the year for them. But we sit here now, heading into the international break, and it certainly feels like if I was going to pick a favourite for the title, Arsenal are currently in that position. I mean, they are, of course, top of the league, but I just think that they look a bit more coherent than the other teams that are chasing at the top. And look, I think it's worth mentioning Chelsea in this conversation. I don't think that Chelsea probably are at the level of Liverpool and Arsenal, but they showed a really strong performance against Liverpool yesterday. That felt like a really big win for them. You see the scenes at the end of the game, and it felt like everyone at Chelsea recognised how important a result that was. They are, of course, the world champions as well, and you can't sort of doubt them. They've got a lot of injuries at the moment, and when they start getting players back fit, Chelsea will probably be a problem for those chasing the title, because they have the ability to rotate their squad with the Champions League, probably more so than any other team in the Premier League. They are 5 points behind Arsenal currently, 4 points behind Liverpool, so they've got a little bit of a gap to make up. But with their squad depth, it's really difficult to rule them out. And of course, we've got Man City, who I don't want to touch on too much because as I record this video, they haven't played their game at the weekend. But they have a chance to close the gap on Liverpool and Arsenal heading into the international break if they were to be Brentford. But again, pointless talking about them because, as you watch this video, that game may have happened. But you can't rule out Man City, can you, in the title race? They have those credentials. They have a manager that knows how to win it. So looking ahead, Arsenal's fixtures, their next four, I think it's nice to look at the season in sort of these 4-game chunks. Fulham, Palace, Burnley and Sunderland, and it feels like a favourable run there. Palace is going to be a very interesting game. I haven't included them in this video because it feels hard to imagine them being, in the title race. But certainly if Palace were to go to the Emirates and get a result and continue this crazy unbeaten run of form, maybe next time we do a video like this, we'll be talking about Crystal Palace being a potential title contender. But certainly Fulham, Burnley and Sunderland feel like, games that Arsenal have to win. And with that becomes pressure. Obviously, it's never going to be ideal going to places like Sunderland where, the crowd is so up for it. And it won't be easy going to places like that. But you would like to think that if they're going to win the league, they have to win games like that. You got Liverpool, they've got a trickier run. They have to play Man United, Brentford, Villa and Man City in the next four, and they need to improve. Man United is never going to be an easy game. Last season, I think Man United picked up a point at Anfield, so never going to be easy going to play against Manchester United because it's a derby game, and with that comes different pressures and there's sort of a different feel to those games. And I think Brentford and Villa and Man City, they all have tools, of course, to hurt Liverpool. So Liverpool really need to find their form heading into this next period of the season if they want to be in the title race. But I think overall is sort of neutrals and people who watch the Premier League, the last couple of years, it's been pretty disappointing that there hasn't really been a great title race. And at the other end of the table, the relegation battle hasn't been great either. And of course, we haven't talked about the relegation battle in this video, but it certainly feels like both of those things are going to happen this season. It looks like we are going to potentially have a title race, and it looks like we are going to have a good relegation scrap. And that is better for us fans than worrying about who finishes 5th in the Premier League, which is what the main drama was at the end of last season. So I think it's pretty exciting that it looks like Liverpool have vulnerabilities right now. It looks like Arsenal may have finally got themselves together and could mount themselves a serious run at the title, which they didn't do last season. And I think Man City and Chelsea are outside threats. If you were to right now pick who was going to win the title, you probably would side with Arsenal, wouldn't you? They seem like the most dangerous team. But overall, I think this has been a fascinating start to the Premier League season. It certainly feels like Arsenal have answered questions. There was questions asked of them after the Man City game, after the Liverpool game, where they dropped points, but they are answering them. And it feels like Liverpool are coming unstuck a little bit right now, and they need to find themselves. They need to get these players integrated together, find that chemistry to start picking up Premier League points. But I think we are going to be in for a fascinating Premier League title race this season, and that is the good thing. Who would you pick to win it right now? Well, for me, I feel like Arsenal are holding all the cards. I feel like their defense, their structure is going to be key in this season. And maybe it won't be, you know, the 90 plus points that's needed to win the Premier League in years past. Maybe it'll drop down into the 80-point mark, which means that we should see more teams in and around it. Let me know what you think though of the Premier League title race this season. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you for another one very soon.